I'm going to establish that we have a quorum, and I'm going to go ahead and read the open script for remotely conducted meetings. We are in a Zoom meeting today. As a preliminary matter of this, the contract review committee permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipating the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Sue?
Yes. Sue Minton, yes.
Thank you. Joanna?
Here.
Joanna?
I'm here.
You have
Can
to
you
say
hear me?
Joanna Roach.
Joanna Roach, I'm here.
Thank you. John?
John Balash is here.
Veronica?
Veronica Bolchick here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tamika?
Tamika Gary here.
Nice to meet you, Tamika. Heather?
Heather Nardoni here.
Jericho?
In attendance, Jericho Mealy in attendance.
There are no anticipated speakers on this agenda. Good afternoon. This is open meeting of the Contract Review Committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting of the Contract Review Committee is conveying by video conference via the Zoom app and is posted on the town's website and identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating that some are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have provided members of this body are available at the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motion. Please hold your name to called further. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. There is no public comment. Okay. With that, can I please get an approval of the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, Sue,
Aye.
Veronica,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
John Balash.
Aye.
Discussion of minutes or approval of the minutes that are and were available to us.
One point on that, the previous meeting has not been posted online as yet, so we do not have the last set of minutes for you. As soon as that comes up, we'll have the minutes for you together.
What do you mean not posted online?
The recording of the video was not posted online yet, so we haven't had Tamika hasn't had a chance to turn that into minutes.
Oh, you haven't been able to listen to it.
Right,
turn it on
to
the-
turn into minutes. I wasn't here last meeting, so
Okay, yeah, no, you weren't. It's nice to meet you this time. Welcome to us.
thank you.
Can we get an approval of the minutes that are out, which is September 6th and September 25th?
You had an edit.
I did, but I couldn't find it.
Okay.
So whatever it was.
So whatever.
was-
Okay, so I move to approve the minutes of the 6th and the 25th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Joanna,
Aye.
Veronica,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
John?
Aye.
No, I. Okay, next is discuss the presentation of questions to be asked to the youth behavioral grant applicants.
I can pull up the document with the ones that were emailed in. If you want to look at it on screen.
Yeah, and I think people have their own. I brought some questions. Joanna, do you have any questions to add to this?
I haven't had a chance to look at that. I've been working on the letter, which I'm finished with and can send over.
That would be awesome. If you could send that, that'd be great.
I will do it shortly.
Veronica, I received the email that had the questions that were sent, and I think that it's inclusive of the questions I had. There's a little bit of duplication, but not necessarily, so I would leave it as is with additions of other questions.
The questions that we have in front of us, the two sets.
Right, exactly.
Which I believe are Sue's. Are these your questions?
There's mostly mine.
No, these are yours.
Sue's and
No,
mine.
these are Veronica's in the bottom.
Oh,
Well, a combination of both.
yeah, there's yeah. I knew that there were mine and somebody else's in there, so mine.
Yeah, these are
Yeah.
yours up here and those are Veronica's on the bottom. And Joanna, did you see those questions?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought they were good.
Mine actually had to do more with, of course, some of the key things that I'm concerned about is, how they're gonna implement their collaboration. I want to know how much involvement the organizations you're collaborating will have. And I asked, this might be one that's in there, but my other question is, do you believe this program will be sustainable if there is not a grant next year? And I actually want to know how they believe their program will, they've given us one, but how will it impact our community? And do you believe your program can work with any of the other programs that might be coming available to increase participation and exposure? So I want to know if some of these programs that they're offering us can work their ways into some of the other programs that are coming out so that it becomes a bigger collaboration. I want to see if they think that there's that availability. Some of it might be that they don't even know what the programs are,
I
but
was gonna say,
Right.
can they answer that without knowing?
what some of the applicants will be. But
Well, maybe the question can be put as, are they willing to, in the future, collaborate with others? Or if the opportunity exists to grow with other organizations doing similar things on the island?
I like that question, like if the opportunity arises.
Right.
I'm just writing it down. And one question, well, let me just finish this with her and I will. Veronica, on the ones that you were asking, which one of the questions did you feel were, basically asking the same thing?
Well, it just had with, if there's a group that has to do with how they're getting participants and making sure that it's inclusive. And I think Sue, you had, used the word inclusive. I said, are they at risk, crisis, pre-risk, or general population? Who's being recruited, and making sure that there's no barriers to participation, meaning, there's no fees involved. Have they addressed maybe transportation? And those are the barriers that are on the top of my head right now. But those are the, and there was a little bit of duplicate, but I don't think that it necessarily hurts to ask twice.
Well, yeah, sometimes you can get a different, answer to the same question.
Right, with a different worded question.
Correct. Joanna, did you have any question you wanted to add to this?
No, I don't think so. I mean, anything, I can't, can somebody put them onto the screen so I can look at them? The only questions that I would really like to add are something about the dollars. And I think we'd like to see the whole list
I
before
don't think mine can be added. I could send it to Jericho. I think.
If they're in text or something.
I had put in, what is their yearly budget and how does this request for program dollars fit into their current program? Does
Right.
that answer what you need or would like to see?
Did you hear her,
Of the-
Joanne?
I can hear her. Can you scroll down, Jericho?
Yeah, is this legible to everyone?
Yes, what is it?
Legible to me.
So
I have
I'm,
a copy in front of me anyway.
Yeah, specific to grant. What I'm struggling with is how to say this.
I just sent that, Jericho.
Thank you. I will copy and paste all that in just a moment.
You know, because I'm kind of really trying to get to, is there a cost per participant? Right? Is there a cost per participant for any or all of these programs? Veronica's trying to get at it with trying to understand how it fits into their current programming. But the other question that I have is, how do we know for sure that it's not going to just get rolled in to other money that they have and this is going to be administered separately?
So you want to know, is there a cost per participant?
Yes.
Like, what is your, because they don't know the number of participants they're gonna have yet. Would it be like, what is your estimated cost per person to deliver this service?
Yeah, okay, I like that. But I also think, how are they going to track this grant separate from the rest of their operating budget?
Okay. How are you going to track this funding separate from
Separately from
separately
your operating budget?
from your operating budget?
Joanna, may it work better if we ask, how will you differentiate this from existing
Yeah,
town
sure,
sources?
Well, not only town funding though, it's
From your whole budget.
How we
Yeah, from
differentiate this
whole
from
budget.
other?
because it's
Okay.
not town. We want to know that it's not in any of the budgets. Can you hear us, Veronica?
Yes, I can, and I just said that I'm moving into the car. So I may lose you for a few seconds, but I'm gonna try to continue as we're in transit, so, bear with me.
Oh, we will.
Never fear.
How will this funding differ from the rest of your budget? Secretary.
So Veronica mentioned no barriers to participation, like including fees and transportation.
Yep.
And then we brought up, is there a cost per participant?
That's
So-
already in there.
Okay,
It's on the list that's there. Thank you. The cost per participant is the one that has come up from.
Yeah, there's the cost to the expense to the agency per participant, and then the cost from the participant end, is there a cost? We're looking at it.
yeah.
both
Is there
sides.
an estimated per participation? Per participant?
No, I hate double Ps. So the two that we have added now is, what is your estimate of the cost per person for this programming? And how will this funding be differentiated from the rest of your budgetary tracking? That, the other side of the estimate of cost per person is the, how have you removed barriers to participation, for example, fees, location of transportation, et cetera.
Correct. And then I want my questions added.
Can you give me let me copy it from, I can copy from the email. Let me just do that.
Are we okay with me removing the screen briefly?
Yes.
I am.
He's got hard copy.
Doesn't take long.
My printer stopped.
Man,
Joanna, is there any way you can send that letter?
I'm trying to do it right now. We've had a massive problem with the internet and I'm still
Yeah, I
not
can do it by
100% here. I'm trying to make sure I've caught everything that I had.
and Dorothy, these are all general questions?
Not specific to any particular
not
agency.
specific to anyone. And on that last one, we want to change it to if there was an opportunity, is there a willingness to work with other organizations in collaboration?
So that's a substitute for the, do you believe your program
Yes.
can work with? Okay. And you. Or similar programming.
Look at this. Don't you have it?
Okay, I'm gonna reshare the additions just so that we all see them. Out. Put it over there. So we can all see it. All right, for your review, the highlighted section.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm all about branding.
Am I missing? I don't know. Let me speed up the size.
Thanks. Changing glasses left and right, trying to figure out how to see.
I need to get another, need to get a fresh set. Because I know what I did. I just can't spend, I can't spend a lot.
We just passed a house that has Israeli flags all over its porch.
Oh,
We're driving out of White Plains, New York right now. Oh, the horrible world we're living in.
Yeah, it is.
Like that 425. Departure. He has a church choir engagement ongoing.
cool.
Good for her.
Yeah.
That's what we like, people engaged in the community.
Yeah, we do. It's important for their mental health.
We should acknowledge today's Mental Health Awareness Day.
This is a very good idea. Put that in other
Yes, we
business.
should.
Yes.
Okay, we're just waiting as Jared was posting those questions up.
Yeah, those are
Okay,
them.
thank you.
And they're up there, so we have everything up. Okay,
Dorothy, if I can just say that reading these questions over again and the ones that are being included now to the document, I think that it really captured our conversation that we had in our last meeting, the things that we felt we needed. So I think that we've got good questions, and hopefully we're going to be getting good information back so we can make good decisions on how to allocate these funds.
I would agree. I think if everybody can see them, Veronica has heard them. Joanna?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm working on your letter.
I know what I'm gonna do is just ask if everybody's okay with these letters, these questions.
Yes.
That I'm just gonna go around to everybody and ask, and that way we can move on to get these sent out to the grant applicants. What I'm asking is, I sent a letter to Jericho today requesting that we reach out to them tomorrow morning. Thursday's meeting is not happening. We are gonna move both into the dates of the 16th and the 24th. What I'd like to see is if everybody's available to increase the 24th. for 2 hours versus it going from 10 to 11:30, if we can get it from 10 to 12.
So you're so this Thursday, we're not meeting now.
Correct.
Okay. And
And
then
we
the
will
next,
meet,
go
the
ahead.
next one will be the 16th and the 24th.
I can pull up the
And
schedule.
that if we can, it's the 16th and the 24th, the meeting on the 24th is scheduled from 10 to 11:30. If we
I
can change the 10 to 12.
So I can't meet on the 24th. I have crack from 10 to 11. 10 to 12, really. So I could do it any other time that day.
Oh, because that was the time I think we all
I
picked on.
know, I didn't know that it was that. I thought we skipped some Tuesdays, and so whatever reason, I didn't allow for two in between. It's my fault.
I'm
Okay,
gonna,
so if what I would suggest is I'm gonna ask everybody right now if what their availability might be on the 24th, okay? So Sue, are you available any other time on the 24th, which seems to be
I'm flexible.
Tuesday.
it's a Tuesday.
Yes, it's a Tuesday and I am flexible at any point during the day at this time.
And
Okay,
it's Veronica, I am also flexible.
John,
I think so. I've got to get my calendar. Just a minute. Judy?
okay. Joanna,
Judy? No, I have to go get it.
Joanna, are you available more closer to the end of the day?
I need to look at the calendar.
I'm really free anytime. The only commitments I have that day right now are from 10 to 12 and then also at 5:30.
Okay, so how about 3 to 5?
Sure.
Schedule something like that.
Okay, Veronica is saying the time is good for her. Sue?
Yep.
The time is okay for Sue.
Can I be excused to go look at mine? Cause
yeah, go ahead.
it was a discrepancy with one of those dates. We
No,
couldn't
no
get it. Let me go
We
get that date.
we did have some, we're trying to schedule it with Erica, ongoing. So let me
Okay,
just,
Tamika is just leaving for a minute, guys, to go check a schedule. But Joanna, would you be able to do 3 to 5 on that day if it's available?
Yes. And then my next question is, do we also have a meeting scheduled that week on Thursday, the 26th?
So up on the screen right now is the currently
Yes, we
scheduled
do.
meetings.
We do have one scheduled for the 26th.
Okay.
And
I'm
from,
fine
and
with
on the 26th, it's scheduled from 10 to 11 a.m.
That was scheduled to be the final discussion before we present our recommendations. And then just for clarity, Dorothy, what was the 24th is being changed?
The 24th will be the day that we're trying to change right now. But we don't know the time of, first of all, we're waiting for Tamika to come and tell us what she was unable to get. And then what we want to do is see the availability. So
And we're
John is still
removing the
looking.
We're
to see if
removing
I
it's-
the
find
12th.
the 24th.
12.
The 24th, John, I'm looking to see if you're available from 3 to 5.
I'm certainly available from 3 to 5.
Okay, Joanna, would you be available from 3 to 5?
On the 26th.
No, on the 24th. You told us you couldn't make the
Yes,
24th.
24th, yes. 100% I'm available.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna wait till Tamika comes back and we're gonna make a recommendation for a 3 to 5. Everybody seems to be available for 3 to 5 on the 24th of October.
And that means we cancel at 10 to 11:30.
At this present moment,
At
we're
this
gonna
present
wait to see what
moment, yes.
Tamika has to say. We're not doing anything
change?
till we get the interview in.
12th
I
is
mean,
canceled.
12th is canceled, 24th, we're hoping for 3 to 5, the first deliberation.
16th isn't canceled.
No, not 16, go down.
Up
There you
one. Up one is the one that's
It's
canceled.
canceled. I read it
Yep.
there.
That,
But we don't know yet until she gets back, right?
So the 10 to 12 for applicants is still scheduled for the 16th with no
Correct,
change.
no change.
and the 12th is officially off the books.
Yes. And now we're looking for the 24th. We're just waiting for Tamika, so, and, I'm not sure where we sit with,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Okay.
And if
So-
we don't have meeting space, we can do remote only if necessary.
Okay.
We will
Um,
try for hybrid.
Right, because it's also
It was,
very hard.
it
for
was
me.
actually the 24th. That's why she couldn't accommodate us for 10 to 11:30.
Did she say what was available?
Could do afternoon or after 2 p.m.
That's perfect.
That's
Well, we would like to, Nikki, if you could, ask them from 3 to 5 PM, please.
3 to 5 p.m.
And if you get that confirmed in the morning with Erica, then would you then send out the email to all the grant applicants offering them the 2 dates? And what we do is we will offer them the 16th and the 24th, half-hour slots. And we give them the time period. So we would actually say available, 10 to 10:30, 10:30 to 11, and then people will write back to you and tell you them when they're available, and it's a first come, first served basis. Whoever
Okay.
Comes
So
in
the
first.
24th, we want to try to change that from 3 to 5 p.m. And I wasn't here. What about the 16th? Are we going to keep it the
We're
same?
keeping it the same,
Okay,
okay? And we just need to get out the email tomorrow off, asking the individuals to come, the grant applicants
Alright.
to come,
grant applicants, half-hour slot.
half-hour slots,
All right.
starting at 10 o'clock.
I sent
Okay.
the,
And they can come,
mailing list for the grant recipients, right?
No.
Okay, we'll do that in the morning.
and they can either come, you can tell them that they can either come in person or come via Zoom. And we make them both, they have both available to them, okay? It would be really nice to see the Boys and Girls Club and organizations we haven't seen before,
Okay.
in person. So we try to encourage the in-person when they're here on the island. We would love to meet them. Okay, so we got to change on time. Joanna, have you,
What do you need?
the
from me?
letter
I'm still-
at all?
I'm working on the letter as we are speaking here.
Okay. So we're still working.
When we lost the internet, I must have lost all my changes, so I'm trying
Oh.
to recreate.
Yeah, I had that happen with 2 emails today, so I understand. I'm sorry. Why don't we go on to a little bit of a discussion of the human service grant allocation process and reforms?
So I have
If-
some additional news on that might
Okay.
change the discussion, which is that I've been contacted by Janet Schulte, and there is part of the strategic planning process is also allocating funding for consultants, which will be retained for process changes next year, starting with the fiscal year 25 CRC grants. My suggestion and
Can you say it again? Sorry.
Yeah, say that again.
Yeah,
So-
I think you have to say it louder, Jericho.
So
And slower.
sorry, I do talk fast. The strategic planning arm of the town is also doing a process revision. Oh, and Joanna, I have put in for the budgetary request as an EIR for this coming fiscal year. And then there is money being allocated by
What is an ERI?
it's a request for additional funding in my
Mhm.
budget.
Oh, so an ERI is
EIR, I believe.
I,
ER.
Yes.
Hmm.
The request from, so that's, just letting you know that I did that as requested. And then, I'll be meeting with Libby and Janet Schulte to discuss the, retention of a contractor, or subcontractor and consultant to do a top to bottom professional evaluation of how we handle this. So my suggestion is we focus our revisions on reporting, because whatever we do, we'll have a whole new set of professional recommendations for next fiscal year when it would go into effect anyway.
So what is the organization, the strategic?
It's Janet Schulte's Strategic Planning Office. You can reach out to her if you would like to discuss it in further depth. I was made aware of that last week. And this will include not just contract review, it's a full human services department evaluation and recommendations for best practices.
This is great.
Yeah, no, it's, I would absolutely welcome the insight of some professional experts on this particular topic, on how we can improve efficiency and performance.
Good.
So in that context, my recommendation is that we limit
or focus primarily on changes to reporting for this year's contract review committee. So for the fiscal year 25 ones that we'll start to deciding on in November.
Yes, so one of the things that we were talking about last week is how to revise the reporting so that it makes better sense to us.
It is worth noting that any changes to the reporting will have to be, will not take binding effect until fiscal year 25. As the
But we can
reporting,
use them, we could use them.
and
or no.
we can absolutely request that agencies provide information up to the new reporting guidelines, yes. But the terms of the reporting are part of the contract, and so it would not be a legally binding requirement for them for this contract period.
For the contract of fiscal year 2024 that they're in right now, but not for fiscal year 25,
Mhm.
which is the grants that we'll be looking at coming up.
Mhm.
Which is what I think Joanna was hoping that we could use going forward.
Yeah, my suggestion comes in the context of there will be a full evaluation by professionals on this topic for use in fiscal year 25 anyway, so.
Okay, so we're gonna take this, that Jarek was making a suggestion to us that we hold off on some of the items. Because they're gonna be making reforms to this process anyway through the next fiscal, for the next fiscal year, for fiscal year 2025.
Yes, so instead of doing it twice, and
Right.
we'll just do it once for the part that we can apply immediately.
Right.
I have a
Which would be
question.
Go ahead.
Okay, Brianna has a question.
Okay,
Some of the things we spoke about last week, and Johanna, please correct me. We were looking to get some clarity in the budget numbers that we're asking for. So we'd like to ask for specific things, so when we evaluate, we can compare apples to apples in some respect. Can we do that even without waiting for the evaluation?
I think that's a good question. We'll have to put that over. I think the other thing that came up too, that Joanna had, was looking at this next grant process in putting them into different categories.
That is something we can do just by decision.
Right.
That can be applied to this
so-
year's funding as well.
So the categories area that Joanna had discussed, which seemed to get the most conversation from all of us, from what I'm understanding, can remain into what we're wanting to do in this next grant process. Does that
yes,
help?
that's what I think.
Right, okay. And I think that's gonna be one of the key things that we're actually looking at, so that we're not looking, so we're looking at the different new programs and actually where we're putting the monies in a better way.
Yes.
So we said, where is the thing that I'm working on?
We what?
Right, I'm just looking at my notes. So one of the things was the notes that I took last week about the things that we were looking on were really trying to come up with a cost per person served. We also wanted a clarification on returned money, right? And some clause or some discussion around grants that are not executed, right? And then we wanted to look at having more efficient contract protocols that were streamlined and standard. Those are the notes that I took about that. The notes
Okay,
that
so
I
the
took about
third
the
one-
letter.
Sorry, Joanna, the third one on that has more to do with the contracts. The other were questions, I believe, that we had for Brian Turbert,
Yes, okay, that's fine.
right? So the first two were questions for Brian. The last one, I believe, was how we can make changes in this process going forward.
Yes,
Yes.
And we said we were asking for 1.3, right?
We,
Yeah, we'll just go
In
one
the
point.
letter.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was originally, I think I asked for 1.2, then somebody said 1.25, and then we decided $1.3 million was what we're gonna.
because I suggested 1.4, so we negotiated.
pre-negotiate.
We sort of came up with a common ground in there.
We get any clarification, Jericho, around that opioid settlement fund? And where that's going, or if that has any bearing on?
I have not been updated on that. I've been working on ARPA funding for homelessness.
What I do know is that we are gonna get the cannabis is gonna actually come, some of it comes from the cannabis tax, that's still in play. And there is still some question on host agreements and whether they're gonna exist or not.
They will
Pending-
exist.
Pending whether the monies will come from those or not. Wait a minute, let me finish, please. I asked this, and that's still in the hands of legal as to whether or not it's making an impact in our community or not. And that's in the hands of legal at the moment, and so.
I did the study
Okay,
on
I'm just-
impact costs, and I've been sitting on with the lawyers. There is no more impact cost. The 175K that's being allocated this year is coming out of town funds, not money collected from the dispensaries.
It's coming from the cannabis grant, the tax, cannabis tax. The 175,000 will come from the cannabis tax.
It is not
No, I don't
being
think so.
There are host agreements and then there are taxes, and I understand that there is no the host agreement, but I was told that the host agreements, so if that's changed, I was just told this the other day, that the host agreements were legal was still trying to find out whether or not because of the
May I ask
implications.
who informed you of that?
I will get to that in 1 second. But then I was informed that the 175,000 will be coming from the cannabis tax money that is collected, because there was a large, like, the last quarter, there was 45,000 or something like that. Don't quote me with, it's either 42 or 45,000 that was collected in cannabis taxes. And that money will go be used towards.
It is not
Cannabis.
impact cost funding. It is now illegal to collect impact.
I know that with the cannabis, but that's why I questioned this when I was told that they're looking at this community, and I was told that the legal was looking at to whether or not, because of the impact within the community as a whole, the host agreement still had I'm just telling you what I was told, so I'm
May
okay.
I ask who informed you?
Brian Turbert.
I will reach out to
Okay.
him for confirmation. on
And
that.
so that, I was told that it was still in the process of legal's hands right now at the moment.
Legal
That's what I
is
was saying.
currently working on equity laws around cannabis.
I don't-
Discussion of the HCA's, which are the host community
I
agreements.
know what they are.
So the money is not coming from the same source it has been, and it's being included in the increased allotment from the town for the 650 and the 175,000.
I understand. I'm trying to say, I asked that question and I was told that there was money coming from the tax money, and that the host agreement still was in, whether or not they would be pending in the community was still up in the air with legal, because of, they have to prove that there's an impact and whether or not there is an impact in the community, which would.
I was tasked with.
I know you
collecting that
were.
information,
I know
and
you
could
were,
not
and that's right.
establish any money that was, the single largest cost for impact was my study to determine the cost of the impact.
So there was nothing from the fire department, police department, school didn't give you any information?
I sent in
Safe
all
place,
points, I sent in all
fair
points. Safe place and fair ones wouldn't be considered because they're not cost of the municipality.
Okay,
I sent in all points communication to all department heads
Mhm.
through the town administrator, account, and received 0 responses after a month and a half, which I assume means there are no impact costs.
okay. Are you still on there, Veronica?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool.
Yes, I am.
I wasn't sure whether you were still there or not.
I'm here.
Okay. And Joanna?
Yes, I'm still here. I
Okay.
don't fully understand all of that. So let's ask another question. I know last time we talked about Brian coming to visit us and talking about this. Is that been scheduled?
It has not.
Okay, I think that's kind of a priority.
I agree.
Yeah.
So how do
Did
we do that?
You did last meeting?
I've been trying to get a meeting with Brian for quite a while.
Okay. So can you reach out, send an email and ask him if he could schedule a meeting with us, please? To come in and sit and talk with us about these items?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. I don't think there's much more we can do on this discussion until we have a better understanding of, what I would like to see talking, maybe we can get them to come in and talk to us about the strategic arm. She could come in and explain to us what changes might be
I
on it.
don't understand why she would do that. It's a consultancy to connect to give a top to bottom analysis of the human services.
Of what your department's doing.
My department, yes, under
Okay.
which this body falls. So you'll almost certainly be contacted by whichever consultants we retain in order to collect data and information.
She's
But
not doing it herself.
no,
Okay. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay, Joanna, how's that letter?
It's coming along. Give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes and it's done.
Awesome.
This is
Joanna,
not double tasking.
Could you
I
do me a
am.
favor? And could you send those points to me, that we were gonna put onto this, contract and send it to Jericho, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's just do this math. Let me just do this math here. The points about let me just go back.
First two, the first.
The cost per person served, the returned, how we deal with returned money and grants that are not executed. And then
No,
official,
just the
which
ones that have to do with what we're doing on our grant, on our end. That we might want to add to the grants, the
oh, the
contract.
percent. So let me just see, which ones were those? All right. So those are some of those notes. So the efficient contract protocols, streamlined and standardized. The other thing that I'm working on is developing a relationship between salary and overhead and, really looking at the percentage of grants. Like we need to do some analysis in terms of the percentage of grants that we're distributing to youth and elderly.
Correct.
Yep, I've got that in here.
Okay,
So if we were at,
just so that we can send it out to everybody.
so if we're at, so I just want to divide this up. So help me with this. This is the last piece of the letter. So if we were at 650, 175 and 175, that is $1 million. So if we're going to go to 1.3 million, how are we breaking this up into the 3 categories? We are establishing general human services, addiction management and support, and behavioral health. So what are we putting in each bucket?
Are we asking for an increase in that, the number that we're asking, are we trying to roll?
As part of the 1.3, right?
Are we
We
trying
need to
are-
indicate.
Are you planning on rolling in the 175 for the cannabis grant to that?
Yeah, we're not calling it the cannabis grant anymore. We can't. Right. So what we're saying is what part of what I said last week about the letter is that it's a stronger ask. So I reworked the letter a slight bit, and then I'm adding the CRC respectfully requests that the funding for human service grants be increased to 1.3 million. The CRC recognizes the continued support of the town for these crucial needs. As part of our increased request, we plan to revamp our process and improve the ways in which we assess requests to organizations, especially organizations that apply for multiple grants. Because I think this is something that we definitely need to deal with. In our initial committee discussions, we would like to establish 3 categories: general human services, addiction management and support, and behavioral health. So we recognize that the needs for funding exist within wide age groups, and we want to make sure that the youth and elderly are appropriately served. We need to put an assignment of dollar values, because I do think it makes a much stronger request to each category. So if we're at 1.3, are we going 800 to general human services, and then we have and 250 to each addiction management and support and behavioral health?
Well, the thing is that the human, that wouldn't work in the sense that we fund things like Fairwinds, sliding scale and the NAMI sliding scale through the human service grant, which is, a huge amount of money right now that they're putting in. So when we look at those two and then you make behavioral health, that's more than what you're allocating right now for behavioral health.
I know, but I think one of the things that we're talking about and that we have
How about-
all
How about
agreed-
500, 500, 300?
What do you mean?
500 to general service, human services.
So we're cutting it down, because last year we gave
Well,
away
no, because
650.
we're not, if you're taking behavioral health and making that a separate category, then you're pulling that out of
Yes.
human service grant now. So if we put 500 into the normal human like the meaning Safe Place and Small Friends, Meals on Wheels, and then, those kind of things, then we take 500,000 and we say that's for behavioral health, which could be numerous amount of things under the behavioral health, which is Fairwinds, NAMI, and some other programs. And then put 300,000 into addiction, or not
Okay.
addiction, but substance abuse.
Well, how does everybody else feel about that?
Can we, do we have, is it easily accessible what and you kind of named what we're spending now, just to kind of see like.
Yeah, we spend 100 and we give 100 and, is it 100? No, 100 and like 132,000 to Fairwinds, something like that. We gave that to Fairwinds last year for a sliding scale. It's something in there. And we did, NAMI got maybe 100,000 or 80,000 towards sliding scale last year. But that doesn't open up a lot of the other which fall under behavioral health.
I think,
Because would we lump behavioral health and substance misuse?
No, because we're talking about,
No, that's the thing
we're
that I
talking about
feel
three
strongly
different-
that we need to pull apart.
and that's why I think the 500,000 is, if you look at what we funded in the past in other
Yep.
categories, it's opening up even a little bit more money to that other category that
Yes.
isn't behavioral health.
I
And so
think,
I think that it's almost a double in what we're already doing in addiction, right? I think it's a double in what we're doing in behavioral health, and it would be a double into what we could give available to the other,
Right.
because mental health has taken most of our our human service grant to begin with.
NAMI and Fairwinds together is 350, I believe.
It's pretty high.
The other thing is almost everything except for NFFR and a safe place and one of the other ones is behavioral health. It's all sort of behavioral health. And it'll get very difficult to distinguish which category a particular thing can come under. But I think.
But this is the thing that I do feel the most strongly about, Jericho, is I feel like we need to pull away from funding so much of the overhead of these organizations and really get into funding the programs that we're offering. And if we start to split it up into the groups or the categories where we think we can have the most impact, then we have a better shot at doing that. Right? Like, look at, we're dealing with, these requests as well as I do. We're dealing with, South Coast Legal, who wants $5,000. We're dealing with Small Friends, who needs extra support for the after school program. We're dealing with the food pantry, right? And so I think what I would like to see us do is get out of spending on salaries and overhead that these organizations, like we're subsidizing them largely, and have them spend the money on programs that are actually helping the people. And, you know, like a good, like I'd rather have the food pantry come in and tell us that they're, you know, asking for $50,000 for food or for a new refrigerator or for the new truck than they are for a portion of the executive director's salary.
One way to,
But isn't that part of our delegation is that we have to keep in mind that it's, part of it is if the salary provides the service, it's really important we keep that in mind as we're going forward with some of these organizations, because it is crucial with some of them that without they have other ways of getting money for, per se, food. They don't necessarily have it for salary. So I think we have to sort of keep a balance there. I agree with you that we don't want to continue to pay salary overhead when it can be compensated some other way, and that we should have programs. We just have to make sure we keep that line as to, is the salary providing the service or the funding providing the service that's needed in order to do the program for the person.
Right,
Dorothy, can I-
Yeah, yeah.
Ms. Veronica, can we say that no more than a certain percentage of the overall ask is for salaries or administration? So that would avoid 95% going to salaries,
Yeah.
and that's funding their regular operating.
I think that we have to ask that question. I think that we should ask whether or not that is viable within the guidelines of the procurement and the contract.
but the evaluation criteria are determined through CHS and CRC. So it can be built into the evaluation without any outside requirements. And it can be used as an evaluation, as part of the evaluation rubric that we agreed to start using last year.
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I'll have to
so
speak
what
up.
he said was that under the CHS and the CRC, it could be added due to the Rubik's evaluation that we were doing into that equation. In short,
Okay.
that's what he
So
was,
so the grant writers would know that up front because they'll get the rubric, how they're being evaluated. So,
correct,
no more than a certain percent should be for salaries.
correct, correct.
It,
Jericho's gonna talk again.
it would be configured so that a satisfactory or highly advantageous to judgment would be below a particular percentage, and then it would be graded down below that. I do not believe we have the authority to discount
Correct.
applications based solely on ED or other like staff ratios. Because we can't micromanage how the services are provided to us, but we can, without any question, add it to the rubric as a primary consideration of the value of it. And we can disqualify, we can not render recommendations under that rubric.
I do believe the original casting of the. was- wait a minute, I do believe the original casting of this grant was for services provided. And that's where the clause has come in as to salary only because it provides a service.
Would we be
And I
able
think
to
that's-
see that documentation
I
somewhere?
think that maybe you'd have to find it under the original, which I think was in 1980.
This would be the article from town meeting creating the CRC.
Creating the whole grant process. And I think it says within it, where it is, like how the money is supposed to be spent.
I mean, I can tell, so,
Yeah, I do believe it's 1987 that it was established.
but I can tell you that, I mean, I apply for a lot of different grants from different agencies. I can tell you that with the NSF, the National Science Foundation, you can't use, when you apply to support a program, there are a bunch of different metrics. One of the metrics is that you can only spend 10% of the value of the grant on any kind of admin costs, okay? And if you're going to assign a salary, to a portion of the grant to salary, the way that you have to do it is it has to be a percentage of the person's salary who supervises the grant. So if that person makes $100,000 a year, you again can only ask for 10% of their salary.
Okay, I think we just have to see what
That's
the
one,
guidelines
that is one example. In other grants that we have applied for, the way that the salary piece is handled is on the, you know, we don't ever ask for money to support salary in any grant that we apply for. What we do on the backside, once we've gotten the grant, is we will assign a percentage of salary to the grant money as we use it and report that. But we're not going into any organization saying, any kind of grant giving organization saying, we need you. I mean, because we do programs too, right? I don't lead with, I need you to pay for this program person, right? So that I can do the programs. I say, I need you to fund my programs and I'll assign a percentage of the salaries to that. Right, so I think that the way that we're doing this is just a little bit, I just think that we would be more effective in how the money gets used if we tightened up on how people could, and on the application process.
When we've had this discussion in the past where we're trying to figure out if we're funding organizations or if we're funding programs. And I think we need to just make a decision that we are funding programs and then have, in much the way the youth grant was structured, have part of their bid essentially include that information as part of the financials.
And I think that there's a line here that is drawn on what is, as I said, it is a program because of a person, and that we're gonna have to really keep an eye on that. I just want to make a note here. It is, our meeting was supposed to go from 4 to 5. It's 5:04. I'm not quite sure how long.
There does
this
not
is
appear anything after us.
how long this can carry on. So I just want to make that extremely clear to us right now. Veronica, I'm not sure how much.
You have the letter. You have the letter to Dorothy.
Can you send that to me too, please?
I sent it to you. I didn't send it to anybody else.
Okay,
Can
thank
I
you.
make a comment?
Sue has a comment to make.
Thank you. While in essence, I agree with a lot of what Joanna has said, and I write a lot of grants too. I'm just wondering, I'm throwing it out as a idea of, because there are so few grants that offer any kind of overhead, as a small community, do we want to acknowledge how much it costs to run an organization here and that there aren't a lot of sources for overhead funding? I would hate to not have a safe place if there was no sustainable funding to run it. Like, that's my worry.
Veronica.
I mean, I think.
And then
Yeah, go
Joanna,
ahead.
I heard Veronica go, so I'm gonna let her talk, and then I'll let you interject.
I agree, Sue. The issue is that one of the things we ask is we want to know what their other fundraising sources are. And I think we don't want to be only providing for the executive director's fee. You know, we would like to see the monies that are given going toward services, not just administration. So I think we ask where their additional funding source, but I agree with you, Sue. It's expensive to live on the island. It's expensive to run a program, but that's why they've got to do additional fundraising. They can't just rely on these fundings because we're not guaranteed to get funding every year. We're not guaranteed to get an increase. So they need to be looking elsewhere also.
Okay, Joanna?
I agree with, I understand that and I agree with it, but I think that for the town to assume essentially the operating costs, whether it's overhead or payroll for these organizations. I think that what happens then, it makes them de facto town departments, right? If those are the things that we're subsidizing, right? And I think that we should not necessarily take the position of, we're going to fund those things because the cost of living here is tough. Yes, I think that those of that money that we ask for, I think this is the way we structure this. I guess that's what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way. So if we're saying in that $500,000 of general service funds, right, if we want to say, I would like to say things like, no one's grant request can include more than $50,000 towards salaries. Right? Like make some blanket rules so that one, the playing field is level, okay? And two, so that the bulk of our money is going to the programs. And I just threw that out as an arbitrary number. It probably should be lower, but I look back at, because now again, at least for me, I have the benefit now of doing this a few years and then really being into understanding grant writing and doing that myself for another organization. And I look at the things that I'm asked to do with my budget and my staff, and I don't apply for any grants that are subsidizing salaries in quite the same way, right? And so, in fact, most grants don't allow for it. They want to see the money go directly to the people being served.
So what happens when you have a grant, per se, let's say like, let's throw health imperatives out there, and what you're offering is that service of somebody in the building to see people, and take them in.
This is a great question.
Other programs are subsidized. The programs that they're doing are being subsidized through other grant processes, but they can't, in order to keep an office open here, they need to have somebody in the building. And
then Dorothy, that's what they ask for. Then that's what they ask us for, right? So instead of convoluting these grants, and again, because I have done this too, that's the other thing that I was going to try to say, is that there are grants where we apply for unrestricted money that goes directly to operating, right? That helps to underwrite our operating costs. So if we want to say of that $500,000, we'll take, this is the place where I would like to see us go, right? In that $500,000 or in any of these categories, we can open up grants and give them dollar designations. So anybody in that general fund can say, we're going to ask for $25,000 for operating costs. And that's the only amount we're gonna entertain. Or we are going to ask for $25,000 support for X person to do X thing, right? So that we're really being very straightforward about how we're funding these operations, and it's a level playing field.
So are we limiting? So if you have, per se, an organization that's seeing 1,000 people and somebody that's caring for 20. We're going to say to all of them that you're a level field, because they're not a level field in what they're performing. So I'm just asking, like, how do you? I'm not understanding, I guess.
Yes, but what I would say to you is that by the nature of the organizations that we're talking about, the money should flow to the ones that need it the most. So that scale that you're talking about, there's, I'm sure, a way to work that. I'm sure there's a ratio between the payroll dollars and the people served, and we just have to figure out what it is, right? So if we could have a guideline, like if you're serving more than 500 people annually, you can ask for up to $100,000. If you're serving less than 500 people annually, you can ask for $50,000. I'm just making this up. This is not what I would recommend. I'm just trying to give you an example of how we could structure something where everybody gets met where they are.
Okay.
Right. Like, think about the fact that when we help the Artist Association with that program, which is a fantastic program, right? We're really helping them give an art class to 20 people a year. And we basically give them $20,000. Right. So if we looked at the programs that we funded, and we as a committee sort of established value levels at what we have done, that would really help us figure out where we go from here.
Okay, Joanna, hold on, because John has had his hand up for quite a bit. And
Yes,
John, I'm
no problem.
sorry, she was so into this conversation, I had to hear it.
Well, I just, I'm listening to Joanna, and I think this is prompts me to ask, no, let's take a safe place. My understanding is, for instance, over the years, our money has financed the availability of the hotline for 24 hours. Now,
Right.
there's a perfect example that you can't tell how many people they're going to serve. You're really funding the service and the paying for that person, and that is it's the person that you're paying for, not for what the value to the individual the recipient. And I'm just saying, it's kind of, we have to try and figure how we balance those kinds of issues. That's all I had in mind.
Thank you, John. No, I think that's basically what I was trying to say too, and I think that's what Sue was trying to say.
Yeah, that
I
sums
think
it up well.
I think a lot of us are trying to say the same thing, John, so well done.
But so here would be the distinction that I would make. That is a service, right? So I wouldn't, like, that is a service. They are providing a community service, and that is a cost of, let's make it up and say it's $50,000. And that's the program. And if we choose to fund that, that's fine. Because that is a safety-based program that serves the whole community. So you can make many arguments, I think, as to why we could justify giving that money. And I think that there's other things that would fall into that sort of widely wound category because it's such a critical service. But I think when we're evaluating some of the larger organizations with much larger budgets, right, I think that our criteria needs to be tightened up.
You mean with much larger requests, not budgets, but requests, correct?
Well, in their operating budgets of some of these organizations are much larger, right? I mean, if
Safe a pretty high operating budget. I'm just trying to.
Right, but if but they've carved out, so here's something that they've done well. If they're carving out this program, which definitely has a community need and fits within our parameters, and there's a cost associated to it, to John's point, it doesn't matter how many people call there a year, we're providing this service for the community. And this group of people has evaluated that and feel that that is the best use of our money within that organization, right? They're not spending it on pens or, supplies or anything. They are spending it on, yes, it's staffing a hotline, but we know this. And this has a direct benefit and impact.
I'm just curious how we're going to distinguish in a consistent manner. And let me first say that I think that this kind of like metricized approach is a good one and one that needs to happen, but it's going to be difficult. You've been saying compare apples to apples, but the services aren't necessarily the same. Both the amount of social impact from one substance abuse intervention versus X number of phone calls, like it's going to be very difficult to equate those entirely one-to-one. But I think that the solution to that is to have several metrics and weight them.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, hold on a minute. John, I don't know if your hand is back up again or if it.
Yes, it is up again.
Okay.
Only because this is good. In the history of this organization, when it was started out, it really came down to it. As I recall, we were dealing with kind of fostering various services or organizations that hadn't been ever on the island available. And there were, in many instances, in many safe places, one example I know of, but I can think of a couple of others, where the original idea was, we're going to get these people up and running because there's no other way of getting them up and running. And I think Joanna makes a good point that we have, as we've evolved over the years, and some of these organizations have gotten themselves up and running. The Safe Place is another one I go back to. They've done a good job of saying, okay, we have this kind of money for lots of other services, but we want your money for this purpose. You can evaluate it, whether that's a good purpose or or a bad purpose, but they did that. And I think that's part of what Joanna is getting at. That some of these larger organizations, we haven't done as good a job in some cases of defining them down to a more understandable way of the service that they're providing.
Yep, I think we're on the same page, John. I think I get it. I get what you're saying, and I think you hear what I'm saying. And I think it would be a
I'm just gonna
good,
ask Veronica,
Dorothy.
hold on a minute, Joanne, I'm just gonna see if Veronica has anything to say, because we're on a phone connection here that,
Yep, no, I'm fine, and I'm liking what I'm hearing, and I'm agreeing with everything at this point.
okay. Did you hear that, Joanna?
Yeah.
And John?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure.
Hey, Dorothy, I have about another 7 minutes, and I'm gonna have to jump off because we're sitting on West 44th Street on the side of the road.
Oh, because you're in the meeting? You can go. We have a quorum. You can go.
Okay, all right.
Have a great time, and thanks for the photo.
Give me 1 second. All right, I'll jump off in a few minutes.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I noticed you're choking. Get a glass of water, would you?
Good. Okay, I'll jump off in a few minutes, all right?
Okay. Veronica is still on. She's gonna jump off and Veronica, if you just send me a text when you jump off, and that way I can put it into the minutes, okay?
Very good.
Okay, thank you. Joanna, go on. I'm sorry, I just wanted to acknowledge
No,
Veronica.
I think this was good. I mean, I think that the thing that we need to do next is we should take a look at the money we gave away last year with exactly the kind of philosophy that we have in mind, and just kind of talk about each grant and say, how would they fall into maybe a new way of thinking before we even get to reading their grant requests, just so we can kind of formalize and really hash out what's the evaluation process that we're going to use. We could practice is what I'm suggesting.
I think that's a great idea.
So do we need to get back to the buckets for the letter?
Yeah. that's a fair point.
The what?
The buckets of money for the letter, for the request?
Joanna, would it be better to describe them in the abstract into a variety, instead of really digging down and drawing a line in the sand now on, I don't know why I keep looking at the screen.
We could just say to divide it into 3 different quarters and not put the money out. Yeah. Yeah, I sort of putting a money number on it. I think putting a money number on it puts us into a category where they say, you said this, and we expect that of you, and that happens a lot. So I think it might be a good idea to just put out there
Sure.
3 categories without money. You
I
can
am
say
totally
designated
fine with
accordingly for
that.
these 3 things, or 3 ways.
I am totally fine with that.
Okay. And so, if that's going into the letter and you just sent the letter,
You would have to strike the dollar amounts.
okay, I'm gonna strike the dollar amounts from this letter that you sent to me and then resend it out. So,
And you could say that we're going to develop a better protocol or something like that.
okay,
I mean, I would say that there are 2 studies about to take place on this to better inform the process.
I'll find a way to put in there, Joanna, and I'll send it out.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think we have any other business right now. My only other
just
question. Oh, sorry.
Just only a question, if when you send out the letter, if any of us have comments, do we send them back to Jericho, or do they send them back to you,
Yeah.
Dorothy?
You'll send them to Jericho. And they'll get back to me to be done. They are allowed to be sent back to me if you want to. I can just not respond to you. So
Oh, I
you're allowed,
understand that.
you're allowed to send them to me, and then I just won't respond to you on them.
That's
And then I
fine.
send it to Jericho, and then we're out of the in the final phase.
Yeah, we're out of the discussion off the record.
Yeah, you're allowed to send it to me.
Yeah, I can send
as
it
I
to you
don't-
and we just can't talk about it.
We can't talk about it. I cannot respond to you about it.
That's fair enough.
That might be easier, and then I can just send it to Jericho, any
Right.
edit that will come from it. I will send it to Jericho once it's done to send out to
Right.
you, in that form, okay? I am allowed to send it out too, but, okay, it's 5:23 and Veronica has signed out. Okay. Did we have any luck with IT on the other business, on the minutes? Have you been able to talk to them about retrieving, Ann's data?
No,
You have not been able to ask them about that?
it's a no. And it's
Oh,
not
they said
IT.
definitely no?
It's not a request to IT, it's a request to HR, and it's for specific information, which I've already made two of.
I thought that we were talking about being able to look into her hard drive for minutes.
I need to specifically ask for something, and it is usually not granted.
You don't think that the IT can pull it off the hard drive?
No, I don't believe IT is allowed to pull off the hard drive because it's part of your privacy as an employer. Those requests go through HR and need to be approved by HR.
Okay, and HR said no?
HR said, you have one request on this and then get back to us. And frankly, they're not in there. I went and dug through all of her files. There's no minutes in there.
There are no minutes in her hard drive or anything?
No, and didn't
Oh, I thought you said you
attend.
couldn't get into them.
When I did the request looking for financial information over the summer after Ann retired, I did not find minutes. The way that we're going to have to get minutes is we're gonna have to go back to the recordings and start working on those. I can request IT to get me a program to digitize those, and I can go through and try and compare them to the minutes. But the other thing is Ann did not attend many of the meetings for the last 6 months that she was here. So she wouldn't have been here to take minutes.
She did take a few of the minutes, so if we could, I misunderstood you. I thought last time you told us that you had to reach out to IT to get
About the program.
about the process and her hard drive as to whether there was access to get her hard drive.
Yes.
Okay, and you're saying inside her hard drive, you don't believe there are any minutes?
When I went through looking for information about various things, there was no minutes. And again, Ann did not attend many of the meetings here. And she tended to keep paper notes. So I do not know where the minutes are, and I do not know if we can get minutes, but I do know that they're recorded and we can use a computer program in order to digitize them and then evaluate them.
Okay. Okay. I think that I misunderstood. I thought you said something about IT last time.
I did.
I'm just putting it on the record that I'm requesting that we do something about the previous
I will
minutes.
consider that. Thank you.
Consider it? I think it has to be done. Our
No.
minutes have to be
It
done.
doesn't have to be done through IT, Dorothy.
No, I'm just saying, I'm requesting that we get our minutes done. Okay, thank you. Is there any other thing anybody wants to discuss?
I think we're discussed out.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. Does somebody want to make a motion?
But we're not discussed then.
I am happy to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, could I get a second on that?
Second,
Okay, Sue,
Aye.
John,
aye.
look at what I have, John, by the way. Joanna?
So, yes, yes.
Ah, you made me, I'm going to get something to read.
I'm gonna bring it to you right now on my way home.
All right.
So meeting is adjourned 5:26 PM. Thanks, guys. Joanna, thank you.
Thank you, Joanna.
John, thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.